What is a rich person thing that you would be totally into if you became rich? Story 1. Professional cleaners. My boss got rich and upgraded to the daily cleaner does everything, including putting away kids' toys, level cleaning, and man, his kids are going to be spoiled as but what a joy to have a daily cleaned home. Story 2. A friend of mine is a dink and does what he calls star collection, by which I mean is that he and his wife go to Michelin-starred restaurants, sometimes flying to different locations, and he keeps a little journal about each of the restaurants. He asks for the wine labels, typically keeps the menu, takes photos of the food, writes a little blurb about the stuff he liked, disliked, etc. It would be a pretty baller coffee table book someday, I think. Funny thing is, though, his wife is super finicky, doesn't eat fish or cheese, and doesn't care for sweets, so the experience is almost always wasted on her, but if I were rich, sure, I'd do that. Story 3. Shrugging at money and fixing things on a whim. I started dating a guy who came from a completely different background than me, and I was talking to him about how I needed to prioritize going to the dentist to fix a tooth, which I had been putting off because of money. His response was, well, go do it then. It's only a couple of $100s. Like, yes, that is the issue. That is a lot of money. It is important to look after your teeth, and I'm getting it done, but that really made us realize that we did not have the same view on money. Story 4. I know it's really bad for the environment, but the thought of taking a private jet from my home to my destination and avoiding having to deal with airport terminals and connecting flight seems like a dream. I'm not saying the millionaires are right, but I understand. Story 5. My husband isn't rich by any means, but he eats like he is, and it's amazing. Tasting menus are not bull. They're overpriced, but some of them are so good. He took me to Porto in Chicago for my birthday 4 years ago, and I can still remember my favorite dishes so much. Even the water was amazing. It was a salty mineral water to go with the seafood. The meal was probably $800 altogether, so obviously not worth it to most people on the planet, but god damn, I wish everyone could experience a beautiful tasting menu at some point in their lives. Story 6. Disappear. My biggest confusion of people having billions of dollars is not shutting the up. You won the system. You could literally sit back and do nothing other than vacation and throw money at charities your entire life and for generations to come. But instead, these wealthy people think they're entitled, obligated to meddle in public affairs and government. If I had $1 billion, I set up an affordable housing charity, then off. Story 7. Outrageous acts of random charity. You know the common ones. Like tipping servers way big tips in cash. I'd have it in an envelope and hand it over as I left, then just enjoy imagining them opening it and treating themselves. I'd also go to stores in poor areas around back to school time and pay for like 20 families' supplies. Then, I would keep a team on retainer to go fix in people's houses. Their full-time job would be working for me, but they'd go out and about to places I noticed needed fixing, offering free repairs. I'd have so much fun with this. Story 8. If we're talking Bezos or Musk rich, I'd have a blast. This isn't something rich people do much anymore, but I would solve problems with my money and put my name on everything. There would be free trade schools everywhere, and I'd have a high-speed nationwide rail line with my name on it. There would be a chain of cheap social and athletic clubs like the YMCA, but you could stay there. I'd build free rooms, massive blocks of them, literal self-storage in every city that would auto-clean themselves every 24 hours. I'd build rehab centers and mental health facilities and embarrass the government by fixing they can't handle with tax dollars. I'd essentially become the safety net society is failing to provide. Mystery used to be a rich person thing too. People would see my name everywhere but have no idea who I am. I'd pretty much be heli-skiing or kayak fishing while all this is going on. I definitely wouldn't tweet or give interviews. Our rich are short-sighted little boys playing with toys. For all their faults and union busting, the Rockefellers and Carnegies and Fords cared about legacy and to some degree bettering society. Story 9. I would get into real estate, build lower-income real estate, and build medium-sized 2-bedroom homes in a nice neighborhood with a community center and parks with fruit trees and community gardens, as well as shopping centers and schools. Story 10. Since I have a painful, exhausting genetic illness, I would get all the treatments. Hypnotherapy, massage, acupuncture, baths, saunas, surgeries, OTC medicines, and I'd have a fancy bed that allows me to adjust it to whatever I need for the day. I'd get the nice body pillows too. And I would do drop-off laundry service. Mentally, I don't mind doing laundry, but it's painful. Same for other housework. I would for sure get a house cleaner to come over at least once per week to do all the chores that are hard for me. Then I would throw myself into my art practice and hire a studio assistant to help me do all the marketing, cataloging, selling, entering competitions and shows, etc. Story 11. Traveling. As it is, it can be fun, but there's so much stress in trying to find the best deal, best season, balanced with prepping for food, and the inevitable wish for souvenirs from the kids that you can only hope to afford because, yes, It's magical, and you want to let them take some memories back, but at the same time, goodness, they want $20 for this thing. $20 isn't a ton, but it definitely adds up. And before you know it, you're just stressed planning the trop, much less actually saving for it and going on it. I'd love to take my kids all over the world, explore the cultures, introduce them to new foods, new people, new ways of life. I genuinely believe everyone should get to travel at least a bit in life to get out of their small day-to-day, and that it would help people in general to become more well-rounded and open-minded if they got to experience someone else's way of life. Maybe it'll highlight the good you have and emphasize the bad around you, urging you to change. I could go on and on about the benefits, but in that same hand, I can't deny the fact that traveling just isn't feasible for the average person. Most Americans never leave their country, and while we have our own plethora of diversity in both nature and culture, there's something to be said about the overall influence of our nation, as opposed to actually leaving the country to experience somewhere else. I mean, how many Americans think how abysmal universal health care would be if we adopted that practice, but never experience having to be told you need emergency surgery, call an ambulance, and not fearing the bill? No, we'd rather pay insane monthly fees for insurance that will do everything in its power to deny you anyways. Such a great thing we have. But genuinely, there are people downright convinced other first world countries that have this are actually horrific and barbaric. But would they still say that if they got to go for a year? The UK, for example, they have their own issues to be sure, but I imagine it's not dissimilar to everyday life in America overall. Just less fear of gun violence. Go figure. Point is, I'd love to travel, but the stress involved just setting it up makes it only barely worth the actual trip. If I had rich people money, I could take my kids shopping, eat good food, make fun memories, and it's just done. I can find a hotel I like and get a room. Only looking for deals casually is sure I'd still want to be smart with my money, but finding the best deal won't make or break our budget. If my daughter wants a pink teddy bear, I can just say yes without having to weigh the pros and cons of the cost. Mind you, I'm not saying I'd say yes to everything if I was rich, but I'd have a lot less worry if I should or shouldn't get this item as their one souvenir, because my goodness, it's expensive, but I want to let her have something, and she really wants it. And what if this is the cheapest thing we come across on the trip? If I say yes now, it'll be easier to say no later. But will this work in the food budget or eat into it? It's tough, and I really wish it wasn't. I just want to take my husband and kids to a little town about 3 hours north of here, stay in a little cabin near the beach and enjoy the local life. But even that is easily a grand or so between rentals, food, and gas. It's just sad in a way. Story 12. Cruising the Intracoastal Waterway in something longer than 30 with continuous access to the net. From Wikipedia, the Intracoastal Waterway, ICW, is a 3,000-mile, 4,800 kilometers, inland waterway along the Atlantic and Gulf of Mexico coasts of the United States, running from Massachusetts southward along the Atlantic seaboard and around the southern tip of Florida, then following the Gulf Coast to Brownsville, Texas. Some sections of the waterway consist of natural inlets, saltwater rivers, bays, and sounds, while others are artificial canals. It provides a navigable route along its length without many of the hazards of travel on the open sea. Story 13. Buying a $20K plus coat that is actually designed to last for years. Heard about it in a Reddit story where this lady's niece intentionally destroyed the coat given to her as a gift from her in-laws with paint, recorded it, and uploaded the video to TikTok. Then her sister refused to pay the damages because she can just get a new one. Yeah. It ended with her husband informing her sister's husband that the options were pay out of pocket or the niece was going to jail because filing an insurance claim would require a police report, and they had saved the TikTok video of her bragging about destroying it on purpose. Her BIL did the right thing, sold the car that he had bought his daughter, and had her get a job to pay him back the rest that the car didn't cover. Story 14. If I were to become the kind of rich where it would be impossible to spend all of my money in a lifetime, unhinged philanthropic endeavors, my town would get a massive library, a top-of-the-line skate park and bike trails for both leisure and sport, a huge recovery center, a community-based food pantry. All the schools would get as upgraded as possible. I'd bring the community theater back to light. I'd upgrade everyone's fishing vessels. I'd buy the police unlimited crisis prevention resources. All of the potholes would be fixed. All of the sidewalks would be upgraded, and crosswalks and bike lanes would be hard to avoid. So on and so forth. Story 15. Like filthy rich with literally almost no limit. Once my parents and kids are set and have enough put aside so the money works for them and they are set for the rest of their lives with at least no worries and live a above average life. Not filthy rich, but secure for life and able to afford a place to live, food and stuff without the need to work to make money. And I have a place for me and an income from my wealth. I'd probably eat a lot of takeout. Not that I don't want to cook. I'll do that when I feel like it. But if I don't need my own chef. Takeout is good enough. I take a lot of classes like woodworking, car and motorcycle mechanics, some languages. So I do something useful with my time and do some stuff on my own. Story 16. Buying and renovating, restoring buildings and furniture. I dream of being able to buy a crappy house from auction and restoring it completely. Not like how those TikTokers do it by painting everything white and slapping marble everywhere. I would make it look like how it was during its prime. Story 17. Having so much money I get to cap out all registered investments, have no bad debt, and have good debt that I can leverage for further gain, while being able to do whatever I want, even if it's not in excess. This probably sounds like duh, but this is what's most nauseating by most vocal rich people. They go on about how smart they are, but the truth is they have the same kinds of expenses you do for the most part, but have more left over to invest. It's not 4D chess, especially when it's anyone older than the oldest millennial. Story 18. Philanthropy. I would love to be one of those big donors who offer endowments, grants, and other types of funding to the arts, public television and radio, science, etc. I would create some organization or foundation, and my life would revolve around making that work. I would enjoy it so much, and I think it would be so gratifying. Alas, I am my own charity case. But if I ever win a big lottery, this is my plan. Story 19. I guess philanthropy. I know that sounds corny and self-aggrandizing, but it's really the only thing I can think of that I can't do now, but want to. I don't know what I'd do with an immense amount of money for myself. Sure, start college funds for my godkids, buy their mom a new house. But after all the essentials are taken care of, I'm not interested in a mansion estate or million-dollar cars. I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to possessions. Every time I move, I throw away or donate almost all my stuff. I'm also not a huge fan of hoarding wealth and using it to accumulate more wealth I'll never use. I want my kids to have a good life, but not a better life than every other kid. So yeah, I think I'd drop $1 million on self-interest and for my loved ones, and then find some way to use the rest for charity. Story 20. Personal chef. Just to have someone make healthy options for me in healthy quantities when I need it. I notice myself eating too much if it's in front of me, and portion control is hard sometimes. Having someone take all of that and just give what is a reasonable amount, I would be good with that. Plus, could you imagine having Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner whenever you wanted it? Just some random day in July, you call up the chef and tell them you want a turkey dinner with all the trimmings for dinner that night. Story 21. Wristwatches. I'm already into them. I just don't have the money to support the collecting part. I don't even want the particularly expensive models. I don't care much for the aesthetics of Rolex or Audemars, or even most Omega models. I'd love to have a Hamilton Pan Europe Chrono or a Seiko King Turtle, but with 2 kids and an old house that needs work, even saving up and shelling out $400 to $1,500 for a single watch just doesn't seem right. Story 22. Depends on how you define rich as I get richer. I adopt many new hobbies. Joined a country club 3 years ago, and it is great for making connections. I buy nice new cars and every other year, and I have been doing that since I started, but the value in cars increases with each new bracket. Yearly trips to Japan. My wife and I are both fluent, but that has increased to at least 2 trips a year, sometimes Japan multiple times, but a lot of other locations make the rotation. A lot of people go wrong when they suddenly get money and try to step up and then it crumbles. But if you just keep working hard and increasing your lifestyle slowly over time, you can have a great life of luxury. Also, not having kids is the additional clutch move. Replace every upgrade I have done with enrolling in daycare, buying a minivan, and paying for school supplies and family obligations, and you have my brother's life LOL. No shade if that's what you want, but it should be very clear the toll kids take on your life, and you should decide what you want out of life. Story 23. Not having to work 40-plus hours a week in a job that is monotonous as hell. I'd be able to afford to travel and work a few odd jobs. The reason I have a hard time keeping in contact with people I work with, let alone making friends. So get occasional odd job work for a little bit and then quit travel around for a bit, get another job somewhere else, and keep repeating, or I try to get into some sort of hobby that gets me out of the house and around people. Story 24. To learn things properly on a whim. Like I'm working on building a track car right now. That itself is mildly pricey, but not prohibitively so for a lot of people. I find the whole process relaxing and enjoyable. Generally. That being said, it would be awesome to be able to have people here with me while I'm working to help answer questions about why I'm doing this a certain way or what I should do first. YouTube and people in GB groups, etc. are super helpful, but there's something about having an expert available that is really reassuring and nice to have. I could take classes to really learn things. Time is the prohibitive thing here. Sure, the local community college has classes, and overall not terribly expensive, but they are 5 nights a week for 4 hours a night, on top of a full-time job and other responsibilities. Just don't have the budget for that for a hobby. Story 25. Been poor, but now I'm well off. One thing I don't do that I used to do quite often is look at the price of before I buy it. I don't remember the last time I checked my bank account. I just buy whatever I want. I was previously living out of my car in the school library. Now I live in a 14,000 square feet house on the water. I make more money than I ever dreamed I'd make. I'm blessed for sure. Story 26, see a doctor. As a brittle juvenile diabetic with ADHD and autism, it would be amazing. Along with so many other problems from my diabetes, my life is miserable. Lost all vision in my right eye already. My kidneys are awful neuropathy. Luckily, I have a pharmacy that has refilled my insulin without a script because family doctors refuse me because I'm so brittle and I can't afford specialists, so no endocrinologist. Yes, I've applied for disability, but the process is so long. I don't care about the disability payments, just access to medical care. Story 27. Being able to afford the best treatments, therapy, a nutritionist, fitness trainer, organic food, personal pool and gym, private chef, travel anywhere I like, have vacations however many times I want, just relax, paint, write poems, read all the classics that I want, bake, take care of myself, grow vegetables and fruits in my personal garden, tend to my flowers, meditate in peace, do yoga, walk on beaches, climb mountains without having to think about the cost of any of it. Story 28. Not having to worry about money at all. I don't have to worry too much right now, but I still have to think about my money. A missed paycheck would be bad. If my house burns down or I wreck my car, it'll be very stressful even if I eventually get insurance money. But it would be great if I just didn't have to worry about it at all if I was rich. My car gets totaled, I would have other vehicles. It would just be a slight inconvenience to get home. My biggest issue would be if the car was rare and it can't be replaced. House burns down, I could drop a couple million on a new house before I even talk to my insurance company. I could even pay someone else to furnish the house, so I just have to worry about purchasing personal items. And of course, smaller things like breaking a phone or going on vacation would be inconsequential in terms of money. Basically, the security that I could literally lose everything I physically own, not have any insurance, and it would be an inconvenience rather than a life-ruining event. Story 29. I'd be studying yoga all over the world, studying yoga texts and ancient spiritual texts more generally, reading novels for fun, birdwatching, taking my dog on long hikes, eating at all the hot new restaurants, getting facials, massages, etc., traveling to every island and mountain town, just living life. I'm not an artist myself, but I love art and would use my money to support art and artists. Story 30. Staff. I would absolutely hire enough people to manage the day-to-day upkeep of my house, whether my current home or whatever home I ended up building or buying. Well, I wouldn't want someone doing all the cooking. I would appreciate having someone doing all the prep work, the cleaning and chopping of vegetables, and maybe even doing the dishes, although I kind of like doing my own dishes. Story 31. If I was 0.01% rich, ultra mega yachts, I'd build an entire island-sized yacht, like at least one SQ mile worth of yacht. The longest yacht in the world cost tilde 600 M for 500 feet, but I think we could get the entire project done for under $5 billion. I could pump and dump that much in a week easy. This would be so big I could have a full-blown airport on it. Think aircraft carrier just as a yacht and way, way bigger. Less than that, I'd probably eat more organic and locally raised stuff. Story 32. Buying dilapidated Victorian houses and faithfully restoring them to be beautiful homes with Victorian walled gardens, orangery, cellars and basements, and pathway tiling. Going to auctions and hand-picking the antique furniture. Using accurate historical decor and employing local quality craftsmen. Using salvage building materials whenever possible. Give these houses, apartments to my family, friends, and rent others at affordable rates for those who need them. Story 33. Investing in my health and fitness team. I'm not an athlete nor athletic, but when I hear LeBron James spending $1 million per year on his body, chef, physical trainers, recovery, etc., I'm like, yay, that's me. Imagine being in peak health all the time because you have your own staff dedicated to making it brainless for you. Story 34. Having a private jet and doing tons of traveling. There's a huge list of places on my bucket list, but time and cost are what slows me down. Plus, traveling, at least air travel, blows. Besides the indignities of commercial economy air travel, being at the mercy of others, airlines' weather timetables, is horrible. I'd love to be able to fly off at a whim to wherever I wanted in total comfort and without having to deal with all the hassles. Story 35. Subtly controlling society and shaping what we care about. Remember 10 years ago when nobody cared if someone was trans or not, then all of a sudden it's some massive issue. That's what the super rich do to keep us distracted from having any real class consciousness. Hopefully I'd use my powers for better purposes and get people to care more about each other and the planet. Lol gel to me. Story 36. Knowing that all medical bills will be paid and they won't take my house away or put a lien against it if I don't. Knowing that you always have enough money for roof over your head and food on the table, and I've never worry about my family having to skip meals to pay for medication or to have the lights turned off till the next billing cycle to make ends meet. Story 37. Brand new socks every day, and I put all my day-old socks into a bin and donate them when it gets full. I love the feeling of a brand new pair of socks. And whoever gets the used socks will basically feel like they are brand new socks. To give credit, I got the idea from a clip I saw with Ray J, who said he does that with undershirts, underwear, and socks, and I like that thought. Story 38. Attending classes to enrich myself instead of having to work to live. I'd love to take a couple of language classes, piano and drum lessons, engineering classes, etc. I'd also buy some fancy tools I've always wanted and set up a little workshop to fill my time making things for fun. I'd happily live out the rest of my life taking classes for stuff I'm interested in woodworking. That's the good life right there rather than buying stuff. Story 39. I'd meddle in government affairs however I see fit. The contrast to the stereotype is that I don't care about becoming even richer, so I'd use that power to fix things on principle rather than for my own benefit. Sometimes it'd just be out of spite, like how net neutrality wouldn't seriously impact me if I was super rich. But that exploitative bull, I'm lobbying for internet as a utility. A single, benevolent multi-billionaire could easily make a lasting impact on so many public policies. And you can bet your ass I'd be going to the Gates Foundation for advice on some things to maximize the impact and avoid missteps. Also, become the majority shareholder in companies and then refuse to let them go down the rabbit hole of bleeding their customers dry in the most underhanded and exploitative ways possible. This reminds me of a Superman conversation I saw recently where someone mentioned that Clark Kent's power fantasy was to be a genuinely good guy superhero. Story 40. You guys want to know the honest-to-God truth about being rich from someone who is? Anything you think is special actually gets old, becomes normal really quickly. Once you have the ability to pay for all of these things, they become something that are no longer special and eventually just become background noise. The richer you get, the less special everything is. It's one of the reasons you see billionaires is doing really ed-up stuff or dangerous stuff. Things only have value because they're hard to attain. Days only have value because there's things that need to be accomplished. And no amount of money beyond having the basics covered will make you any happier. Nobody who has money wants to get rid of their money, but they honestly don't seem to enjoy things as much as people who have to struggle to achieve it. Also, self-made people don't just lay back and enjoy their money once they make it. Their personalities are a feature of what made them wealthy. They don't just fade into the background because they think they have enough money. Story 41. Possibly a nonprofit to feed and clothe people. Imagine if every person could have a nice pair of tennis shoes or boots. A safe place for vulnerable people would be difficult to manage, but it could be pretty awesome too. Like in Tokyo, they have those mini rooms stacked on top of each other for sleeping or working if you miss the last train out, but bigger. Clean facilities and hot food. What a dream for those in need. Story 42. Never having to check my balance before getting groceries. Actually, having my groceries collected by someone else. Also, this is a big one. Giving a waiter, waitress having a bad day but doing their absolute best job no matter an enormous cash tip. But I'd have to make sure their boss didn't try to take it and parcel it out to everyone. That's not okay to me. Story 43. An old money rich person thing I would have enjoyed when younger was being frugal would be a choice, not mandatory for survival. We were lucky that our scrimping and success with a well-planned retirement means grocery shopping is no longer deciding what we can afford this week. This is the old age for which we saved. We don't waste money, but enjoy a comfortable, modest lifestyle. Story 44. When I reach financial independence, or am fortunate enough to retire early, my dream is to spend more time with my family, enjoying simple pleasures. I envision frequent road trips to off-the-beaten-path destinations, particularly rural areas where we can immerse ourselves in the natural beauty and local culture. It's not about luxury or extravagance, but rather embracing the authentic charm of the surroundings and savoring the peace and serenity that comes with it. Just pure, unhurried indulgence in the present moment. Story 45. My old boss was rich, $9 million a year plus giant bonuses. Full-time maid, 2 full-time nannies, daily housekeeper, Mercedes, other Mercedes. People came to change the light bulbs, $20K for a rug. Gave away all the furniture in the rental house when their house was remodeled and they moved back in. Vacation for family and a bunch of friends in Europe, Galapagos, more. Wife was slightly crazy. I nearly hit her when she jogged in front of my car. Really glad I didn't. Story 46. Having a studio space of world-class artisans and machinists in a cutting-edge facility at my beck and call, paid very, very well for theater time, that can make me all the weird or very niche stuff I suddenly get obsessed with. Solid platinum sterling tarot cards? Yep. Dice made entirely from lab-grown sapphire? Sure. Staff made from one single silicon crystal? Totally. Comic-accurate cosplays made of super high-quality material? No problem. And then personal trainers, personal chefs, and some minor plastic surgery. Story 47. Private jet. I don't really go anywhere, so it wouldn't be a huge burden on the environment. But when I do go places, I'd like to not have to ration my shampoo to fit everything into a carry-on because I'm afraid I'll never see my stuff again if I check a bag. No screaming babies, no loud talkers, a whole can of ginger ale instead of what fits in the little cup. Bring my own food from home. Kind of dumb, but something that would make one tiny part of my life more enjoyable. I'd also fly my coworkers with me to work events. We'd have a great time. We're usually on the same flight going home, but not near each other. Would be fun to have that last party on the plane. Story 48. I honestly don't know. I don't have any desire in doing anything rich people do. I don't think I like the lifestyle of a rich person. I don't like cars, partying, boats, or private jets, and no polygamy either. I do like the idea of piloting my own airplane, doing stuff like woodworking and building robots. I guess not having a job would be nice since I hate time constraints of having one. The whole being on time thing drives up my anxiety, so I would prefer to not have to deal with work and deadlines. I just want to do things on my own time and for myself. Well, I'm a boring rich person, I guess. Story 49. Staff. I'm not really into a lot of expensive consumer goods, although I would splash out for a house built from real wood and stone. But man, I would love having more time for me and less time cleaning, organizing, and putting stuff away, especially true now that I have a painful joint problem. It would be a huge relief never to have to kneel on the floor to clean under the bed or again. Was going to include or scrub the bathtub, but spin scrubbers are the greatest invention of the modern world. Story 50. Traveling just because I can. No rhyme or reason. Just having time to throw a dart at a board, read a bit about the culture, food, and what's there, and then land and befriend some locals. Since I'm rich, I'm paying for everything because I want some people to have fun with that they might not otherwise. Try the street food and take them to some fancy place or something. IDK, I would love to treat the world like a giant party I can share anywhere I go with it money. Hopefully make some long-term friends around the world. Anos the adventures. Story 51. Send my twin boys to the best autism-friendly private school, or hire like few personal home care people for them to get the absolute best care they need. I can't do much right now. Between work and everything else, I don't spend enough time with them, and my wife is basically raising them. She deserves a break. Sorry for the sob story, but this is my absolute priority right now. Story 52. A personal chef and having the best quality food delivered to me all year round. Also, having elective medical tests and taking preventative meds. Right now, my really excellent health coverage does not cover going to a doctor to evaluate all the ways in which I'm aging and having a team of doctors figure out the best supplements and stuff to take for my health. Oh, and consistent dental health care. Oh, and I'd have a personal trainer, and I'd live somewhere that is close to nature. Small house, lots of windows and nature. I'd also be happy to employ a wildlife specialist to run a local sanctuary on my property for injured birds and animals. And I'd have the best quality water available, the best water filters and air purifiers. Sadly, a clean environment, very clean water, full medical exams, regular dental care, and eating the best quality natural foods like delicious fruits and veggies, all that stuff is way easier with unlimited dollar. Story 53. I know a number of extremely wealthy people. I'm one of the poors. I went to school in the main line and worked closely with A-list celebrities. Some were descended from robber barons, while others self-made and or merely celebrities. I found them all to be incredibly frugal. Had I that kind of money, I'd delight in lavishing it onto friends. I'd pay people's medical bills and send them on vacations. As for myself, I have no interest in things. I would travel the world and take specialty classes, cooking in India and Thailand, pottery in Spain or Portugal, language immersion classes, small ship nat, geo cruises with professors on board. At my age, I'm most interested in experiences, although I would not scoff at the idea of replacing my entirely secondhand wardrobe with a simple but elegant capsule wardrobe. I would love to allow for my father, husband, and Mill and Phil to have the best medical care available and to not live in fear and stress. My very best friend and her wife would live worry-free. It's a nice dream that only a huge lottery win could create. I'm 55 and I've lost most of my ambition. Story 54. For sure a personal dietitian, trainer, and chef. I would always have my hair and nails done. Weekly facials, massages, and spa days would be a must. A spiritual consultant and Reiki practitioner. Ranch help for my husband. At least every few months book a getaway first class with an onboard babysitter to help. Not a nanny. I want to parent my own children. The best education for my kids. A massive library. Leisurely waking up and having slow days without rushing is luxury in its finest. Story 55. Travel. I want to see and experience the world. I want to see the people in their landscapes and taste their food and say their words badly and laugh at their jokes that I won't understand. My home will be whatever hotel or house or bungalow or tent I am staying in that day, and my favorite food will be whatever new delight I just tried. I want to be teased and amazed by the breathtaking variety of this planet, that's all. Story 56. Car collecting, but not for investment or monetary value, but as an opportunity to own and drive cars that mean a lot to me, like one of the two Vauxhall Calibra 16V 4X4 left in my country, since one of those is what I was taken home from hospital in, or holy grail cars from my childhood like the Lamborghini Diablo and TVR Cigaris. Basically my own mini museum of only cars that I love and want to drive. Story 57. Not working. And yachts. I'd figure out what it'd cost to build out a trimaran or yacht big enough to live off of full-time and just off, either by myself or a crew. And if that doesn't work, I'd invest in one sort of long-range high-performance plane that I could be taught to fly alone and hopefully have a bath toilet installed that could be used comfortably regardless of altitude. Story 58. Big boats. I'd likely live on one most of the year, fishing and paying for private float planes to bring my friends and family out for mini vacations all the time, making catch and cook videos and scuba diving. I'd be below the water taking video of the sea life as much as possible. Story 59. I once had a part-time job writing up descriptions of super yachts for a company that rented them out. Lots of words like sumptuous and exquisite. When I started, I had the mindset of yachts are a bit stupid, just a way for the ultra-rich to flex, and not something I would be into. But the more I wrote up about them, the more I started to think holy super yachts are awesome. Story 60. Never worrying about whether that noise coming from your car or house is going to break the bank. Not having to go to YouTube to fix said things because I can just hire someone without even thinking about it. Furnishing a whole house at once without even thinking about price. Just walking into a store, picking out all the pieces I want that match and fit my style and buying them. This is different from today where I have to save up for a year to buy one piece of furniture and then agonize over finding the best deal, often to the detriment of my own style or comfort. Story 61. I have rich friends who love buying Rolexes and expensive bourbon and wine. I have one rich friend who spends a couple months at a time in a new city, country all year, gave up his condo in New York, rents it out at a loss, and just disappears to south of France for 2 months. He's not an eccentric guy either. Just likes to travel, meet new people, try new food. I could get into that lifestyle. The material stuff does nothing for me. Story 62. I have a rich friend and several acquaintances, by rich like they have no reason to do any work. Their income streams are all stable and passive. They spend so little on essentials, it's hilarious. Each of them has no streaming accounts that aren't one of the several companies they run, even though they don't need to. Every asset is attached to a business. They'll rent equipment and services from their own company to infuse it with funding to grow. They do weird-ass things like keep a hot pot in the car and make soup from leftovers for lunch. And they keep the money a secret unless they trust you, and aren't really into talking about wealth so much as projects. So if I got rich, I'd follow suit. Story 63. Art collecting. Most of the pieces I own are just $1, $10, $40 prints. Though I do have one $300 embossed limited edition signed print that is the glory of my collection. If I was rich, I'd absolutely be buying actual paintings and coordinating with museums for loans and exhibits. I'd also buy crappy falling apart paintings and pay professional restorers to bring them back to life too. Basically, since expense would no longer be an issue, I could broaden my horizons from their current narrow filter. AKA, no $50 print is going to be worth anything in particular when 100 years pass. Sometimes I dream about leaving an actual collection to my kids like some fancy rich baron. Story 64. I would just take as many degrees on qualifications as possible at different universities across the globe. I'd be a forever student. I love learning, and if I had the money to take another degree, that wasn't vocational, my career goal, I would 100% do it. No stress if you don't get the best grades either, because you're not going to use it to get a job anyway. LML. Self-fund a PhD in my current field? Sign me the up. Do a law degree and pass the bar? Yes, please. I have a whole list of subjects that I'd love to get a degree in. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Story 65. Just having the freedom to do what I want legit whenever I wanted. It's not even doing the vacationing, buying Burberry, etc. It's about having the freedom to do these things. If I won the Powerball, I'd probably stay living in my small city and would only take my usual 2 or 3 vacations a year. I'm a homebody and would probably become more of a pro at my favorite video games, and the 8 hours a day of not having to work, I'd probably spend at a part-time job and volunteer at a cancer or AIDS foundation. Having the freedom to tell any supervisor of mine in the future that is a horrible boss to shove that job up their ass is more freedom to me than having the ability to buy luxury or travel TBH. It's amazing what having money means. Money truly does drive the world. Growing up in poverty and now being upper middle class, my blood pressure and I swear, even my overall health and psyche have improved. I'd imagine going from upper middle class to the top 1% would also be life-changing for the better. Story 66. I, 59M, am at a place in life where my wife and I finally make good money. The first level of making a bit more than enough is to be able to not worry about paying the bills and being able to pay them early, like right when the statement comes out. The other great thing is to be able to go to fix something about the house or one of the cars and not worry about paying for it or going to buy a car and getting a loan with no issues or co-signers. Wealth usually gives you the ability to have a great credit rating. All my adult life, 40 years, I've been living week to week and never having anything extra. Nothing to cover a car repair or health issue. I'd imagine that the next level of wealth would be to work, but not worrying if I lost my job, and also like another posted, not working for money, but just the satisfaction of doing it. I love my job and have always thought that if I came into millions, I'd still work for many more years at this same job. The one thing I can think of that I would do if I was very wealthy is to take 2-week or longer vacations twice a year. Story 67. Servants, cleaning, landscaping, and cooking, and a pet sitter primarily. So about 4, 5 employees, or 6 if I had a pool. I might even hire a nanny/tutor/chauffeur. I love spending time with my kid, but I hate taking him places. I'm a homebody, so getting someone to take him on regular trips to the park, etc. would be a godsend. I would tag along on days my mental health could handle it. Then when he is home, we have better quality time because I had a chance to energize and handle his activity level. The pet sitter would probably be more of a dog walker. We have a cat currently, so the cleaner would be in charge of litter. But my son wants a dog. I don't have the time to potty train, so win-win. Story 68. Going to law school, so I could be an immigration or human rights lawyer. Or going back to school because I love it. Actually getting to work for the NGOs I went to school for but never had the money to do unpaid internships or the connections. Also travel the entire world, but also try to bring awareness to issues not well known to the rest of the world. I'd love to start an NGO or work with previously established ones like CAMFED or MSF to promote education and wellness in women. Also the preservation of civil society through athletics and meetup groups. And I'd have a nice bungalow somewhere with an infinity pool and a bar serving endless caipirinhas, and with a beach where I could surf and snorkel all day. I'd want to take care of all the stray dogs and cats and have an animal sanctuary too. Jack Johnson and Armin van Buuren would be on retainer depending on my mood. But mostly I would always try to do good. Rich people have the ability to see the good they do in action. I try to help as much as I can, but it's very easy to feel disillusioned. Story 69. Order the big lumberjack breakfast plate every day. No more having to choose between ham, bacon, or sausage. You get all 3 plus a pancake and French toast. I'm not a big ham aficionado, so I would replace the ham for bacon. And since I can't be caught lacking with a glizzy in my mouth out here in the mean streets, I would also substitute the sausage for bacon. Story 70. I practice as much philanthropy as I can afford. Little things like giving out a few bag lunches to the guys asking for change on the corner, dropping a few bags of groceries to a household that is struggling, or buying someone a meal that is counting small change in line. It's not much, but it's what I can do once in a while. I'd really enjoy doing more of that and stepping it up a bit. This is sliding into a pretty Thai world, and even small positive impacts make me feel better. Aranti. Story 71. I'd be crunchy AF. I'm already crunchy and I make our own food, but I also work, so I have to limit my expectations to have any kind of success. I'd do red light therapy with an expensive machine, have a fully loaded home gym, buy all the fancy health supplements that I dream of, have a big beautiful kitchen with soft lighting and lots of wood, a couple of cows on a nice chunk of land. I'd micro-school my kids and we'd travel all over the world taking in what we could of other cultures. I was very blessed to travel to over 50 countries in my 20s, but life changes. I'd live life to the very fullest of my abilities without worrying about how I'd afford to pay groceries and rent and bills. Story 72. Real estate and art collecting. I want multiple pads. I want to help family and friends have the houses/apartments/condos, whatever they need. I'd let people stay in any one of my homes to maintain it. Art collecting, because I love art, and I could see myself throwing swanky cocktail parties for people to peruse artwork. It would be awesome to help out struggling artists, selling their art to other rich people, making them feel celebrated and appreciated. I have a pipe dream of opening a museum one day that would feature some rumored art pieces that are collecting dust in a certain university's basement.